have two very quick announcements, and then I'll turn it over to the social chairs. I hope everyone enjoyed their first full day here in our lovely reception at the Vice Chancellor's house. I just wanted to remind you that tomorrow morning starts at 9, well, breakfast at 8, and then we will have fellows reading in here at 9, so please come support your fellows. And also, we have pulled up the Mike Levine sign-up sheet. I will make assignments and a schedule tonight and post them in the back of this room in the morning so you know if you won a meeting. Okay, thanks.
We're going to do a couple of announcements before our raffle. We'll be asking for a little audience participation in our raffle. So tomorrow night, 9:30 in here is the first Scholars Open Mic. I think we have 12 people signed up right now, which is awesome. That's probably capacity. But if you haven't signed up for that night and you want to sign up for the 26th, I think there's still a couple of spaces for that.
Yes. Also, well, that's kind of loud. I'm putting together a poker night that'll happen on the 29th or the 1st. If you're interested in playing, please come see me so I can kind of get a head count so we know how many decks of cards I need to get, how many hidden cameras I need to put up.
How many decks have you got?
6 decks, yeah. But, yeah, so come see me. We have a great history of playing poker here at Sewanee, and we'd love to carry on that tradition.
We're giving away 4 books. Oh, you can throw it over. Here you go, Forrest. All right, so we have 2 Alice McDermott books. The first one, you got the Alice McDermott sheet?
Yes.
Number 8.
Number 8 is Heather
Luby. Come get your book, Heather. Come get your book, Heather. Next Alice McDermott book is number 16 is
David Clark.
David Clark. Oh, there he is. Somebody's going to win this beautiful big book. We're ready for the Robert Haas.
30. Lisa Appleman.
Or Ampleman.
Ampleman.
Ampleman?
Sorry.
Yeah. And tonight's reader, Tony Earley. That's number, that's your handwriting?
That is. William Lynn.
Where are you, William Lynn? Number 7.
7. I can't read the handwriting.
Rahul. I can't read your handwriting. Rahul?
Rahul?
What's it?
Can't really read it.
Yeah. Kawakai? I can't read it. I can't read the letters. At least he was honest.
David
Hornbuckle.
Yes!
Thank you.
Tony Earley.
Hey, I'm so glad y'all are here. Often I come in here by myself and read and pretend y'all are here. I'm going to read the second part of a longer story. The main character of the story is the Appalachian version of Jack the Giant Killer, the North Carolina version of Jack. And at the start of this story, Jack is accosted on a bridge by a talking dog. informs Jack he's going to kill him because he, Jack, no longer has cultural relevance. So Jack throws the dog off of a bridge, flees for many miles through a cornfield, encounters sort of the appearance of every girl he's ever defiled, and then they vanish, and he runs into a wheat field, and here we are. And I could not have made it sound any worse if I tried. Do y'all know who Tom Dooley is? Have y'all heard the folk song Tom Dooley?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. I'm very relieved. Tom Dooley figures in this piece, and at Vanderbilt, not one of my graduate students or undergraduate students had ever heard of Tom Dooley. So,
Oh, my.
yeah.
Give the money back.
Wyatt knows all about Tom Dooley. He has got every Kingston Trio record ever made. So, anyway, here we go. Jack's in the edge of the wheat field, and all the girls have just vanished. And the dog is behind him somewhere in the corn. Across the oceanic distance ahead of Jack lay the brushstroke of tree line in which he might conceivably find shelter from the black dog, while behind him rose the porous dam of tousled corn through which the dog might at any moment break. To either side, vast calms of wheat promised neither near horizon nor hope. Jack turned again through the compass points, this way, then that way, but reckoned only despair. The cornfield lay too close behind him, the forest too far ahead. And as a child of the mountains, his aversion to blank horizons was inbred and inalienable. Jack thought, how bleak a vista viewed from the doldrums of squandered life. Then he spat disgustedly because, as a plot man, he distrusted metaphor. Now we're going. He took a heavy step toward the distant smudge of forest, stopped, shook his head and considered weeping, then took another step, then another and another and another, until he lumbered into an arthritic trot. After a mile or so, he gathered resolve enough to run and took off. He had no desire to run anymore, but ran nonetheless, getting on with his setting out because he was Jack, and that was what he did. He set out. And that was all he knew or had ever known to do. He had never learned how to set down in any one place. He had sauntered carelessly through the stories, taken for granted that another tale lay beyond the one through which he passed. How many times had Mama packed him a bite of dinner and kissed him goodbye at the gate? How many dew-tamped red dirt roads had unrolled before him in the sweet of the morning? But had he stayed put in any one of the stories, settled down with any one of the maidens who had inexplicably loved him, or had at least loved the charming but insincere version of himself he conjured without scruple, the dog would never have found him, nor indeed have had reason to run him to ground. Day stacking upon numbered day would have gently done the dog's work. At the end of his life, he would have faded into memory and anecdote, an ordinary man, slipping away for good on the last breath that uttered his name. But would that have turned his story tragic? Waking with the same woman beside him for a finite number of mornings, breathing in her familiar smell, watching a yard full of children chase lightning bugs in the cool of the evening. Jack did not know if he would ever have another chance to clamber onto the full arc of immortal life, or even if he would do so should the chance present itself. But he did not want to die alone in this particular sordid story, in a conclusion not of his choosing, so he ran on, dog be damned. He ran for miles and empty miles, his mind free from the embarrassment of exposition, the regret of flashback, and the dread of foreshadow. Beneath the dawning electrical sky tinted the bilious gray of nausea. Pink sears of lightning intermittently scratched across it, followed by ripped barks of thunder. The close air occasionally rearranged itself as if uncomfortable, worrying the wheat into nervous eddies, but this humid stirring brought with it no relief, only the promise of storm. He ran until he noticed with a waking start that the forest toward which he traveled had grown markedly closer. Its edge serrated now by treetops. A single tree, an oak of considerable height, elevated on what seemed to be a plinth of some sort, had separated itself from the forest, well forward of the phalanx. Jack looked nervously behind him for the dog before slowing to a trot as he approached. The tree's position at the forefront of the cohort suggested it was a tree of some importance, a sentinel at least, maybe a general or a king of the trees. Jack guessed it was probably also a talking tree, given its perching on a pulpit. He had encountered only a few talking trees during his journeys, and for the most part found them to be on the dull side, so limited their experience of the world. In their low, sapped voices, they talked torpidly about the circling seasons, the glacial ripple of their growth rings. What? Let me know if it moves. Jack checked over his shoulder again and pulled up into a walk. Whatever the tree's rank, he figured it was a tree he should howdy to before he piled into the woods. "Hello, Daddy," he called. No answer. He searched among its limbs and leaves for some sign of sentience. He wondered, as he often had, why some trees talked and some trees didn't. And how could you tell the difference between a tree that couldn't talk and a tree that could talk but chose not to? When Jack stopped near the tree, he saw that it wasn't perched on top of a platform after all, but rather grew from the center of a moldering boat. Well, Jack thought, standing with his hands on his hips, his hat pushed back, a boat. He stared and stared, unable to stop staring, not so much at the incongruity of a boat locked in the vast waste of wheat, trackless miles from the sea, but with a rising recognition, as cold in his gut as a gulp of water from a winter spring, that he knew that boat from somewhere. That it was, or at least had been, a magic boat, a flying boat, and that he had flown in it. He had sailed, he remembered, over the dogwood spackled mountains and green furrowed fields, surrounded by friends he hadn't betrayed yet, all of them whooping with joy because they were young and it was spring, and the fresh sun and rushing wind were warm on their faces, and they were, of all things, flying in a boat. The boat rotting before him, its hull split by a tree, had once been his boat. The old man had given Jack the boat because Jack, occasionally generous in those days, had on the road shared his simple lunch of ash cake and water with the stranger. Jack's good-for-nothing older brothers, Will and Tom, passing that way before Jack, had refused to share their fancy victuals with the old man, and for their stinginess no good had come to that pair. When Jack called "Sail, boat, sail," the boat had risen into the air and careered through the sky. He held tight to the gunwales and navigated by whim. When he said, "Sail over here," the boat sailed over here. And when he said, "Sail over there," the boat sailed over there. He picked up Hardy, Hardhead, and Eat Well, and Drink Well, and Shoot Well, and Hear Well, and Run Well, all those boys. And they had flown hooting through the sky to the king's house, where they tricked the witch who had spelled the king's daughter out of all her gold, breaking the maiden's enchantment in the process. He remembered with a slap of regret that he had then married the king's daughter, but left her for another tale shortly after their honeymoon. I put that line in for Bausch. He wondered now why he had done that. She had loved him. Her breath had tasted like a waft of iris. Her breasts had fit his hand like apples. Nor had he shared the gold he had gotten with the well boys, although without them he could never have beaten the witch. Instead, he had swiped a pan of cold biscuits and a jug of wine out of the king's kitchen, slung the gold sack over his shoulder, and set off whistling down the starlit road. The boat was in a sorry state. Jack knelt beside it and scooped out mud and moldy leaves and acorns and bits of stick with his hands, finding that the keel had mostly rotted into the earth. The tree had sprouted in the muck and grown to full measure, pushing up planking with its roots as it grew. Jack sat back on his haunches and considered whether it would be possible to get the boat airborne again. "Fix, boat, fix," he commanded, but it remained as rotten and unmoving as before. He also tried mend, boat, mend, and repair, boat, repair, and even the evangelical heel, boat, heel, to no avail. He stepped over the gunwale and with his foot tested the bench in the stern from which he had so blithely navigated the sky. Convinced the seat would bear his weight, Jack sat and rested his chin in his hand beneath the wide canopy of the tree, gazing without seeing at the oak's knobby hide. The night he sneaked away from the King's Daughter and stiffed the well boys, he had simply walked off down the road. Now he wondered why he had done that. Why hadn't he at least taken the boat? If he had been going to set out anyway, wouldn't that have made more sense? He could have sailed through the rest of the tales, Jack in his flying boat, the miles liquid in his wake. Oh, the giants he could have killed, the sacks of gold he could have snagged, and the maidens, well, the maidens, he thought shamefully. Who knew what pleasures he could have made with a maiden in a flying boat? Instead, he had left the boat moored in the King's Yard when he sneaked away. It must have flown off on its own, pilotless, adrift in the sky, searching for him, its lost Captain Jack, before marooning who knew how many years ago in this damnable field. When he mumbled, "Sail, boat, sail," he already knew it wasn't going to work. A breeze bearing the singe of ozone freshened on Jack's cheek. Above him, the oak leaves had begun to curl against coming weather, their pale undersides furrowed in warning. In the direction from which Jack had run, a great dark cloud hoisted above the far horizon, its upwardly roiling mass black as blindness, its towering edges limned with mercurial silver. Detonations of lightning flared inside the cloud, followed by broadsides of thunder. Between the cloud's trailing edge and the ground lay a sickly stripe of greenish sky, and silhouetted against the sky galloped a solitary figure. Jack, cursing himself for his interlude of aeronautical nostalgia, leapt to his feet preparatory to lighting out, but saw that the figure running toward him was a man, and not the hydrophobic dog. Oh, the dog's rabid. Jack quickly skimmed through the possibilities of who this man might be. The farmer whose whoring wife he had attempted to mount the evening before had seemed content to run him off, not run him down. It had been so long since he had defiled a maiden that he couldn't imagine that an avenging daddy would still be on his trail. And surely all the millers and kings and robbers and giants he had tricked out of their gold would have given up all hope of retributive restitution by now. Maybe, Jack thought, just maybe it was the old man bearing magic words and implements come to save him. "Howdy, Daddy," Jack would say. "Come on up in my boat and sit a spell." "Why, thank you," the old man would answer. "I believe I will." Jack would do the old man a small kindness, maybe give him $1. And by the time the old man had taken leave of the tale, he would have either repaired Jack's boat or given Jack the wherewithal to kill the dog. Jack nervously sat back down, fighting the urge to head for the woods, reminding himself that he had never feared a mortal man. The man stopped 50 or so yards away and stared in the direction of Jack and his boat, his head cocked thoughtfully to one side. "Jack?" the man asked as he edged closer, a slow step at a time. "Is that you?" "Why, Tom Dooley," Jack said. "I wouldn't have thought about you for $100. For coming up on 150 years, the fans of Tom Dooley and the partisans of Jack had fought over which man was rightful heir of the high kingship of Appalachian folklore. Jack's proponents denounced Tom Dooley with his lone ballad as a one-hit wonder, while the Dooleyists maintained that the real Jack was Jack's English forebear, famous climber of the beanstalk, and not this Jack here, stalker of the southern highlands, climber of the dialectical bean tree. Although neither Jack nor Tom Dooley would ever admit it, each of the assertions hit a nerve with one or the other. Jack was secretly sensitive that his renown, while considerable, was almost entirely regional. Tom Dooley silently suffered because, despite his greater success farther afield, he was summoned in only a single solitary song. They had never been formally introduced, but had often glared at each other across coffee houses and auditoriums. Both their crowds, oddly enough, seemed to run in the same pack. Tom Dooley hung down his head. Look here, Jack. To be honest with you, I don't feel much like feuding today. Can we put it in a poke for now? Jack exhaled, relieved. That seems fair enough, Tom Dooley. Tom Dooley scratched his chin and considered the tree spread over Jack's boat. Jack, ain't that tree you're sitting under a Quercus alba? Jack picked up a leaf and studied it. Yep, Quercus alba. Shoot, I was hoping it was a Quercus rubra. Ordinarily, I try to avoid white oaks. You know, that was so funny when I wrote that. I don't blame you, Jack said. But since this one ain't down in some lonesome valley, it's probably all right. I guess. Tom Dooley considered some more. And ain't that boat you're sitting in, ain't it the hardy, hard-head flying boat where you picked up the well boys and went and beat the witch out of all her gold and broke the enchantment the witch put on the king's daughter? It is, but it don't fly no more. I always liked that story, Tom Dooley said. Then he winced and swallowed and looked at the ground, so painful the admission that he admired anything having to do with Jack. Jack stared up into the leaves of the tree and drew a deep breath. And I always liked that knife life couplet in your ballad. The word knife sounds sharp, like it'd cut you if you drew a finger across it. It makes sense you could use a knife to take a life. Why, thank you, Jack. I always thought that rhyme made the song. Neither man spoke for a stiff moment. You doing any good with that song? Jack finally asked. Oh, just middling, Tom Dooley said. A little Girl Scout action, that's about it. Occasional old hippie frailing a banjo. To be honest, I ain't done much good since Burl Ives died. Jack Tell's doing all right? Jack made a face. Storytelling festivals mostly. Appalachian study scholar every once in a while, but I'm afraid the pointy heads have done drunk that well about dry. Day law, Tom Dooley sighed. What a world. I know it, Jack said. Don't I know it? Jack? Yeah? Can I get up in that magic boat with you and sit a spell? I don't think it's magic anymore, but you're welcome. Tom Dooley started to swing his leg over the gunwale, but Jack stopped him. Hey there, stranger, he said. Tell me your name. What kind of foolishness is this, Jack? You know what my name is. Tom Dooley, this is a folk tale, not a folk song, and I know more about tales than you do. If you want to be in this one, this is how it goes. Oh, for God's sake, Jack, Tom Dooley said. Have it your way. My name's Tom Dooley. You satisfied? Tom Dooley you are, Jack said. Come on up in my boat. That's the way he had done it with Hardy Hardhead and the Well Boys. Tom Dooley climbed grumbling aboard. All the benches other than the one on which Jack sat had rotted into collapse or been shoved askew by the growing tree. Jack scooted to one side and Tom Dooley sat down beside him. Jack cast a weather eye on the approaching cloud. It had grown so tall he had to tilt his head back to see its anvil top. Shreds of updraft steamed up its black sides. He hated to leave his boat after all these years, but figured that it would soon be in his best interest to head for the woods. Whatever mayhem that storm was packing, Jack did not want to be caught out in it. He hoped that in the forest he could find suitable shelter. A robber's cabin would be good. In the stories, the robbers were never at home, but the wife of the leader always was. The wife tended to be lonely, and he often talked her out of a little slice before she hid him in her hope chest when they heard the gang coming back with their spoils. Jack, Tom Dooley said, I need to ask you something else. Is today tomorrow? Jack says, it was yesterday. I was afraid of that. See, my song's always been mostly in the future present tense. You know how it goes. Come this time tomorrow, that's when I'm supposed to be hanging from the white oak tree down in the Lonesome Valley. Well, so, if today is the day, then tomorrow's still going to be tomorrow, so you're all right. But I took off running yesterday, Jack, and I run all night, which I'd never done before because it ain't in the song. And when it got first light this morning, I said, oh shit, Tom Dooley, you just run plumb out of yesterday and into tomorrow, and now you're in a world of trouble. That's an interesting temporal conundrum, Jack said. Tell me about it. You ain't going to believe this, Jack, but I'm being pursued by a talking dog that maintains he's going to kill me because I've lost cultural currency. We're in the same boat there, Jack said. He's after you too? He got after me last night. I'll be damned, Tom Dooley said. In the far distance, the wheat near the cloud began to thrash almost parallel to the ground, sucked toward the cloud by some virulent rip, while the leaves clinging to the topmost branches of the white oak still shivered away from the cloud on a high breeze Jack could not feel in the boat. Tom Dooley, we better move on out, Jack said. I fear this gathering cumulonimbus bears us ill will. How about you try the boat again? Sailboat, sail. Nothing. Maybe we got out and rocked it back and forth a little bit, Tom Dooley said, tried to prise it loose from the dirt. Alas, the boat I fear shall fly no more, its magic run aground in this landlock of grain, spoke an ancient voice whose component parts seemed to flutter down around them. I knew it, Jack said. I just knew this tree could talk. Day Lord have mercy, Tom Dooley said. I ain't never run up on a talking tree before. It like to have started me to death. Alone I drift through the cycling seasons, somnolent in this golden waste. Why does it talk like that, Tom Dooley asked. Because it's a tree, Jack said. They all talk like that. In the sacred timber of my ancestors I speak, the tree said. Hang on. Jack frowned again at the storm. This was no time for poetry. Cut it out, tree, he said. This is North Carolina. We're prose people up in here. Ah, sweet Carolina, with your virgin soil grasp me by my taproot. What'd he just say, Tom Dooley asked. Let's go, Jack said. This pretentious prosody is laying heavy on my person. But people expect majesty when the tall ones speak, the tree said. It doesn't matter how you say it if you don't say anything worth listening to, Jack said. And personally, I find your line breaks a little precious. Hold on now, Tom Dooley said. My song's got line breaks in it. Ain't nothing wrong with a line break per se. Jack stood up and started to step out of the boat. Wait! The tree cried in panicked prose. You're Jack, that Jack. Tell me what to do next. The black dog told me I was the last of the talking trees, and then the foul creature raised his leg against me. The black dog pissed on you? Tom Dooley gaped. Damn, that ain't right. Can we take it with us, Jack? And just how do you propose we do that, Tom Dooley? It's a tree. Well, I ain't got it figured that far, Tom Dooley allowed. Just tell me how to get where you're going, the tree said. You go on ahead and I'll bring the boat later. Damn it, Jack snapped. The boat don't fly no more. How many times do I have to tell y'all that? Tom Dooley squinted up into the branches. Hey now, just hold what you got. Why, you're planning on using this vessel for yourself. This boat can still fly. I never said that. I never said this boat could fly. Why, you good as did. That means you lied to us the first thing you said. First time I ever heard a tree talk, it prevaricated. I didn't lie, the tree said. Tom Dooley stood up and from somewhere in his overalls produced a blood-stained butcher knife of preopic length. Now you listen here, Firewood. I swear on Laurie Foster's lonesome grave that if you don't straighten up this minute and fly right, I will carve my initials all over your worstest trunk. All right, the tree said. Put that thing away before somebody gets whittled. This is the truth. Many rings ago, some squirrel, pardon my language, carried my acorn out of the forest, away from my ilk and kind, and buried it here in the debris in the bottom of your boat. Once I sprouted and took root, I began to absorb the magic that leached out of the boat as it rotted away. I don't know if there's enough left to make it fly. I've never tried. Why, you deciduous son of a bitch, Jack said. You broke my boat. The boat was rotten when the squirrel buried my nut. You can't blame me for your toxic waste. Tom Dooley squinted. Then, if you got your roots on all that flying magic, how come you never flew? He asked. Because I'm a tree, that's why. If you ever see a flying tree, you should seek shelter immediately. Only the dog has led me to reconsider. Jack tried to recollect having seen a flying tree, but could not come up with anything. And besides, it's sunny here. Oh, shit, Tom Dooley said. What? Asked Jack. Spy that way. There's a posse coming yonder. From beneath the storm cloud, a countless multitude of men on horseback galloped toward the boat, guns drawn, long dusters thrashing out behind them like black wings. Bright whips of lightning cracked all around them. Hounds whose stiff tails cut periscopic weights through the wheat loped among the horses. Their trailing bays swirled into a single cyclonic moan. But this is North Carolina, the tree said. How does one even find a posse in North Carolina? I usually take a bath and go to a square dance, Jack said. Oh, sorry. That was awful. Why so many of them, Tom Dooley marveled. Every time someone sings your song, a lawman sets out on your trail with a brace of bloodhounds, the tree said. God almighty, Tom Dooley said, look how famous I am. Look how famous I am. Jack simpered. Well, you ought to have seen that crowd of maidens I diddled run through here this morning. The hoofbeats of the horses thrummed faintly into earshot, intermittently drowned out by fusillades of thunder. The sounding of the hounds rose in pitch and ardor. The lawmen raised their weapons. Shreds of gun smoke ghosted silently from the barrels of their pistols, followed moments later by almost inaudible pops. Bullets began to drop softly into the wheat between the riders and the boat, along with the first frigid splats of rain. The throbbing of the hooves grew louder. Beneath his feet, Jack felt the ground begin to buzz with their drumming. Okay, I've enjoyed my renown enough for one day, Tom Dooley said. We need to get on down the road. Let's see what you got, tree, Jack said. Them vengeful shades and dogs are coming for us all. The tree cleared its throat, wherever that might have been. Oh, ancient gods of earth, wind, and fire, gods of sky and cloud and rain, gods of leaf and blossom and bowl, gods of light and dark and season. Oh, good Lord, Jack said. We ain't got time for this pseudo-religious New Age nattering. Be respectful, Jack, Tom Dooley whispered. The tree's pantheistic. Summon from my reaching roots the magic once contained in this vessel's enchanted planking and lift us into the darkening sky. Save us from the black dog, from the approaching posse, from the lightning and wind and storm. In the name of the sacred buzzing bee, make us fly. Jack and Tom Dooley sat very still. Well, Jack asked. Wait a second, the tree said. Okay, try it now. Sailboat, sail, Jack commanded. Nothing happened. One more time. Sailboat, sail. Without warning, for yards around the boat, the tree's roots tore themselves free from the ground with a great ripping noise. Clod-spewing waves of root rolled toward the boat. The boat bucked as the waves collided with the base of the tree. "Son of a squirrel," the tree groaned. "That hurt like a woodpecker." A handful of bullets from the approaching riders snipped almost delicately through the tree's leaves. A salvo of thunder ignited above them. Tom Dooley ducked and laced his fingers above his head as he attempted to hide beneath his hat. "Hardwood, you need to get over and get after it," he said. "We're double dog damned if you don't fly right quick." The tree flopped back and forth with the clatter of branches and a rattle of leaves as it struggled to pull its anchoring taproot free. "Say it, Jack," the tree grunted. "Say it! Sailboat sail! Sailboat sail!" The cloud had moved almost directly above their heads, thinning the light around them into near darkness. A roaring curtain of rain shattered from the sky and hammered toward them across the field. From inside the deluge, the patient baying of the hounds rose in pitch until it ripped into a multitudinous cacophony of demented yipping. The closing riders shouted in taunting unison, "Tom Dooley! Tom Dooley! Hang down your head! Hang down your head!" The boat began to tremble beneath their feet. "Sail, boat, sail! You're bound to die! You're bound to die!" chanted the lawman. "Go, go, go!" Tom Dooley prayed. "Go, go, go!" As the taproot began to rend from the ground, the vessel shuddered into the air, a ripping inch at a time. Most of the rotted planking in the bottom of the hull peeled away as the boat rose. Jack and Tom Dooley grabbed hold of the bench and lifted their feet. When the root broke free with a final snap, the boat floated into the sky as lightly as dandelion down. It rose as high as a house, a barn, a tree, a standard-sized giant, a two-headed giant, a three-headed giant, two trees. They rose as high as a mountain, as two mountains. At 3 mountains high, the boat banked gracefully toward the woods, its bow tipped urgently forward as it shot away from the swirling maw of the cloud, its roots swimming aft like tentacles, leaving a silver contrail of leaves spinning in its wake. Within moments, it crossed the boundary of the forest, bound for far shores. The leading line of lawmen pulled up at the crater left behind where the tree had stood and gazed after the boat, their faces pallid beneath the wide brims of their dripping black hats. The dogs cast about the trampled wheat in earnest confusion, noses to the ground, as if they had made some mistake in their trailing that concentrated snuffling might amend. Not one of the watching lawmen thought to shoot at the boat as it grew smaller in the distance. Looking back, Jack glimpsed the full magnitude of the peace officers come to lay Tom Dooley in his grave. A slick of riders and dogs blackened the field as far as he could see. Millions. "We're flying, Jack!" Tom Dooley yelled. "We're flying!" Jack's joy at once again sailing through the air in his boat was tempered in almost equal parts by his wish that the boat was still intact. He wasn't afraid of heights. He was a Jim Dandy bean tree climber after all, but found that flying at great speeds in a boat without a bottom, while exhilarating, made for a vexatious voyage. He gripped the gunwale so tightly that when his good hat blew off, he didn't even try to grab it. It was all he could do to make himself look past his dangling shoes through the writhe of roots at the topography of the trees blurring beneath them. But as he watched the forest passing, he realized that the posse wouldn't be able to follow them through such verdant woodland on horseback. The lawman would have to dismount and send for lumberjacks, and that would take time. He had gotten away. He was still Jack, that by God Jack. He let go of the gunwale first with his left hand, then the right, and placed his hands on his knees. He couldn't see forward because of the tree trunk, and didn't think to look aft where the storm pursued them with avidity. But he reckoned that for now, seeing where he was going didn't matter as much as the fact that he was gone. He was once again flying in a magic boat. The whole world and his riches lay ahead of him. He thrust his arms into the air. "Woohoo!" he screamed. "Woohoo!" He wrapped his arm around Tom Dooley's shoulder and gave him a shake. "Where to, Daddy?" he asked. "Where do you want to go?" "Why, I don't know, Jack. How about we pick up a couple of maidens, you and me, get a bite to eat, see the sights," he said, forgetting for the moment his recent maiden-related resolutions. "How about we get you a girl up here in my flying boat?" Better not, Tom Dooley said. I'd just wind up sticking a knife in her chest and burying her in the woods. When Jack removed his arm from Tom Dooley's shoulders, he drew a long string of blue sparks snapping along with it. He suddenly felt as if the air around him were being inhaled. His blowing hair cackled with static. Tom Dooley turned to him and said, "Jack?" just as the sky blew up. A white scald of light blinded Jack. A cannon shot of sound deafened him. The rivets on his overalls branded him, and fire shot from the nails of his boots. For a heartbeat, he gazed at a blank page in a book and wondered what happened next. Then he smelled wood smoke and opened his eyes. He found he was clinging to the starboard gunwale with both arms, his legs dangling beneath him. The boat was spinning slowly, slipping from the sky as it spun. The tree's trunk was split and scorched and smoking all the way down to its base. Its canopy unraveled in a corkscrew of blackened leaf scrap as it fell. Tom Dooley was fighting to keep hold of the snarl of roots beneath the boat. "Jack!" and Tom Dooley yelled. Jack swung a leg up and clambered back into the boat. He was considerably singed around his peripherals, but nothing seemed to be burned off. "Jack, help!" "Sailboat sail, sailboat sail, sailboat sail," Jack begged. Nothing. The boat began to pendulum as it stalled. The wind rushing past Jack's ears screeched in rising velocity. "The boat's not working, Tom Dooley," Jack called. "Hang on, we're going down." Tom Dooley managed to claw his way up into the relative safety of a root nest near the base of the trunk. "What about the tree? Tell it to say some kind of magic sestina or something." "The tree's dead, Tom Dooley. It took a direct hit. There's sap all over the place." "Not dead," the tree rasped, "but cleaved." "You're alive," Jack cried. "Charcoal, Jack. I'll be briquette soon enough." "No, Tree, don't say that. You're going to be fine. We'll find you a tree surgeon. You'll be good as new. Tree!" "I can smell the lighter fluid, Jack. I'm on my way to Kingsford." Wait. Tree, listen. We're in a bad way here. We're going down. We're going to crash. Tell us what to do. Tree, hang on long enough to tell us what to do. "Taproot," it wheezed. "There's magic leaking from my taproot." "Tom Dooley, there's magic leaking from his taproot." "I see it," Tom Dooley yelled. "Hey, law, Jack, the damn thing's shitting rubies." "Bleeding rubies," the tree said. "Please tell your friend I'm bleeding rubies." "Rubies?" Jack asked. "Magic in its solid form. Ordinarily, it's a gas." "Tom Dooley, the tree says they're magic rubies." "Magic rubies," Tom Dooley wondered out loud. "Damn, Jack, this here is some more kind of a story." "Can you stop the leak?" "I think so. If I hang upside down trapeze style, I think I can stick my finger in the hole." "Do it," Jack cried. "Do it, Tom Dooley." "Hold on a second." "Ow!" the tree yelped. "Sorry about that." The oak spinning slowed and stopped. The bow tipped up and settled. The boat came to a full stop and floated becalmed in the air. "It worked, Tom Dooley," Jack shouted. "By God, it worked. We're not falling anymore." "Huzzah!" Tom Dooley shouted anachronistically. It was not long, though, until their deliverance from death began to strike them as more plight than providence. Although the boat hovered easily, it proved incapable of progress. When Jack commanded it to sail over here, it did not respond. When he ordered it to sail over there, it remained anchored in place. The clouds slid blackly by mere yards above their heads and tried to beat them from the sky with head-knocking hailstones and icy cataracts of rain. It lit up on the inside as if some haint with a lantern were seeking them through its dark passageways, opening doors and peering inside rooms in which they might be hiding. The earth below them had disappeared beneath the deluge. Jack shielded his noggin with his forearm and shivered mightily. He had never been so cold or so frightened in all his many travels. The tree offered neither comfort nor counsel as its condition worsened. Scores of leaves fainted into the rain as its consciousness wavered. When the end came, only a few lifeless stragglers clung to its topmost branches, ragged flags rotting among the rigging of a ghost ship. It whispered, "I think that I shall never see," and then spoke no more. After the tree died, Tom Dooley grew broody and silent. "Jack," he finally asked. "Yeah?" "I'm getting a cramp in my finger and all the blood's run to my head." "I reckon that would be the case given your predicament." "And Jack?" "Yeah?" "You know what I just realized?" "What's that?" "I'm hanging from a white oak tree, just like I say I'm going to be doing tomorrow in the first person part of my song." "I hadn't thought about it, but I guess that's right," Jack said. "Spirit of the ballad anyway, if not exactly the letter." "That's something, ain't it? I never been in a tomorrow before, and when I finally get to one, I wind up hanging from a white oak tree. Of course, I wasn't counting on the talking dog and the talking tree and the flying boat and getting struck by lightning and the magic rubies leaking out, but still, here I am. Here we are. It's been kind of interesting, though." "What has?" "Being inside of a story instead of a song, not knowing what happens on the next page. To tell you the truth, I always envied you that. All that setting out, going on down the road, seeing what happens the other side of the mountain." "I've had some good times, I guess," Jack said. "I don't always appreciate them like I should, but I have." "You don't like living in your song?" "It sucked the soul out of me a long time ago, to be honest with you. It's always the same. Even when I close my eyes, I can hear that refrain a-coming. I got to where I look forward to somebody screwing up the lyrics for a change, but they're so damn simple hardly anybody ever did. This is the most improvisational day I ever lived through." "I'm sorry about that," Jack said, "the limitation of the lyric. At least you're out now." "I don't know about that, Jack. You know what else I just realized?" "What's that?" "My head's hanging down too, just like it says in the chorus." Jack sat up straighter. "Hey now," he said, "that's just happenstance. It's the only way you could stop the rubies leaking and the boat from crashing." "It's not happenstance neither, Jack. It's prescient is what it is. Even after all I've been through since yesterday, I'm still locked up in the song. Head hanging down, hanging from a white oak tree, the whole pokeful. It's the damnedest thing, Jack. Narrative inevitability." Jack glared down at Tom Dooley's shoes. "You ain't locked up in shit," he said. "Ain't nothing inevitable. That ain't how a story works. You get to a hard spot, you make a decision, and you set out from there. You go on down the road and see what happens next. When you get somewhere, you make another decision. You got agency." "But Jack, I ain't got agency. It's all an illusion. Face facts. Them ain't my facts. And Jack, I come this far, I might as well go on back to my ballad. It ain't much of a song, but it's home. If people stop singing it all together like the dog says, and the words get all the way forgot, well, then that's all right. You seen all them lawmen riding after me through the wheat field. I've been sung about more than most. That's a poor rationalization, Tom Dooley. That's what that is. I can smell the chicken shit on your breath from here. I don't know why you even bothered running from that dog in the first place." Tom Dooley bent forward and stared up at Jack, blinking in the rain. "Why, Jack," he said, "ain't nobody likes getting bit by a dog. Tom Dooley, you listen to me. If you pull your finger out of that hole, we can't go back. We'll both die and I don't care to. I ain't never been killed before, and all these many tales and years, and I don't aim to start now. Well, I'm bound to die, Jack. I don't know about you." He pulled his finger out of the hole and shook out his arm. Jack saw a ruby bob out from beneath the tree and hover in the air. Magic. The boat shivered ever so slightly. "Why, you son of a bitch." "Hey, Jack," Tom Dooley said, staring up, his eyes blackening with the murderer's ungodly glee. "Come this time tomorrow. Reckon where you'll be." Then he laughed, somersaulted backward, and vanished into the rain. Thank you.